Well, are you originally from Syracuse?
No, I'm from Indiana. I moved here in 1988. I went to Indiana University for journalism and music. And my junior year of college, I was applying for internships, and the Herald Journal, the old newspaper here, gave me an internship. And so I spent the summer here in 87, and I really liked it. My girlfriend at the time lived on Long Island, so I thought it was close. I thought, oh yeah, it's New York. It's real close. I didn't realize it was 5 hours away until I got here. But I had a great summer, so I went back, finished my degree, and then the following year, when I was applying for jobs, I applied for a job here, and they hired me as a police reporter, of all things. I wanted to be a music writer, but that was the only job they had. I took it. And I thought I'd be here for a year and then move on to the next job. But nope, I did the police beat for like 9 years.
Wow.
And then obviously I met my wife. We had 3 kids. And, we just grew roots. Then I was the sports editor for, I don't know, it's like 20 years, something like that. And then my boss, who was the previous sports editor, Steve Carlick, asked me if I would consider doing this beat that's called Best of Central New York. Yeah. And I said no. I really like sports. I think I have a good thing going. He said, well, you know a lot of people, and I think it would be really fun, and you could make it into something that we don't even know what it is. You create what it is that you want to write about. And that weekend, I went home, and it was the state basketball championships. So I was filtering pictures and stories from all over the state on St. Patrick's Day when my neighbors and wife were all, doing a neighborhood pub crawl. Yeah. And I said, what the heck am I doing? So I went back on Monday, and all weekend I kept having to leave and go back. On Monday, I went to Steve. I said, all right, so I just want to make sure I get this straight. You want me to write about food, drinks, and fun places to go, and you're going to pick up the tab. And he said, yes. I said, I'm in. So that was 3 years ago, and I've had such a blast because I love it. I also like what the area has to offer, and I like shining a light on those places. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, over the years, I've come to really enjoy your writing, Don's writing. I feel like I like Jacob's writing. He was only doing food for just a little bit, right? Yeah.
But he's doing food now in North Carolina.
Yeah. I still follow him on one of our accounts on Instagram. Yeah. And it's pretty cool to see some of the stuff he's posting about. But over the last like 2 years, I've really come to appreciate your all's writing and the things you guys are covering, and maybe just kind of getting more used to like seeing you around from time to time, talking to Don, that kind of stuff. But I feel like the food coverage, restaurant coverage in Syracuse right now is in a pretty good spot.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Again, I didn't know what this job was going to be. At first, we were just doing, like best steaks or best donuts, best this and that. Yeah. And that was okay. But then I thought, I think I can have some more fun with this. So I started doing these lists, not even a list. It's not a list because 12 places to get a great sandwich or 8 places to get a good hamburger. And I would just go to these places and I would taste it and like you, I if I liked it, I would write about it. I would put it in this list, but I would tell a story behind every place because I think every restaurant, every bar that we visit has a story behind it. Yeah. So I started doing that, and I heard that when I would write about these places that the business would go up. And I went to this one place, Sam's Chicken Land.
I was just there today.
Yeah. What'd you have?
Well, unfortunately, it was still fine, but unfortunately, I got the chicken tender sub.
Oh, what are you thinking? You don't get a chicken tender sub at Sam's Chicken Land.
Everyone, when we do our best search, we just, whatever people recommend, we go to.
Yeah.
And so we're doing best chicken sandwich. Well, they don't have a fried chicken sandwich in their menu.
No, they don't. So I get it.
Yeah. And so when I said, do you have a fried chicken sandwich? She kind of looked at me strange. She's like, well, we have a sub. I was like, is it fried chicken? She was like, yeah, it's chicken tenders. I was like, do you make a special sauce or anything? And she was like, well, we have ranch. I was like, I'll just take that. And it wasn't bad, but it was.
No, and they do make their own tenders. I love that place.
Yeah.
But when I just went there just to include it because someone on our Facebook, where Syracuse Eats page had said, oh, you got to go to Sam's for a sandwich. So I went and I got this steak and cheese sub, and it was off the charts. And I got to talking to the guy because I'm going to write the little backstory.
Yeah.
And he I think was an insurance salesman, and he always loved this place. So and then he bought it. So I went back to my boss. I said, this place, it is just, I've driven by it probably 300 times in my life, and I never knew it existed. And I'm telling you, it's some of the best food I've ever had. I think I should do a series of stories about those types of places. Hidden gems of Central New York.
Yeah.
And that's where, and I've done 20 of them or so. And the day that story came out, there was a line down Charles Avenue of people trying to get in. And he ran out of food. And so I knew I hit on something, because I think what Central New York is very, we are very proud people. And I think when we can claim something as our own, something that nobody else knows about, you like to learn, when you read something or when you listen to a podcast, I like to go away with something that I can talk about, something fresh, something that I'm going to tell somebody else, hey, we got to try this place.
Yeah.
And that's what people here do. And I think it resonates with people. And I think when you find out about a restaurant that's been around for a long time, you just didn't know about it, that has really good food, you're helping the consumer, you're helping Central New Yorkers find some place new to eat, but you're also giving a huge boost to this restaurant that in 20 years has never seen this kind of business before.
Right.
And I've really enjoyed that. And I think that was when I turned the corner, because I stopped doing just the best places to get this or that. I mean, I'm still going to do those, 8 places to get a great stuff, but I'm not going to make it a contest.
Yeah.
We used to make it like a contest
where
the readers would vote, and then we would test them all out. And that was fine. It was fine. But I think it just kind of wore out. And, we did chicken wings. I think it was the first one. And that was fine because I love chicken wings. And I found all kinds of good places to get wings now. But I think now it's more about the businesses and what really good food you can have. So the job is evolving. And now during the pandemic, all these restaurants, believe it or not, a lot of restaurants did not shut down.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that the restaurant industry was decimated, and it might be elsewhere. Not in Syracuse.
No.
We lost a few, but, some chains.
Yeah, and even some of the local ones that we did lose, they were on their way out. They wanted to be done.
Exactly.
There was other stuff going on. I mean, there's a couple of them, and I'm really grateful that they did. Dominic's is a great example.
Yes.
Dominic said, this isn't pandemic related.
No.
We've been wanting to get out and
they're
sell.
done.
Yeah.
They're done.
And that was just, the pandemic was for some of them just that push off the ledge of, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I'm done with the business.
Yeah. And this just lit the fire.
Exactly.
One of my favorite restaurants that I had gone to, I had my rehearsal dinner there 30 years ago, Kelly's on Oneida Hill. I live now just 2 miles away from it.
Okay.
He had been looking for a while to retire.
Right.
I just went and had drinks with him the other night, John Kelly.
Yeah.
He was looking for a reason to retire. And then the pandemic hit, and he was tired. They had to shut down. He tried takeout only for, I think, 4 days.
Yeah.
And he got his family together. I said, I think it's time. And it was right. But the pandemic, I think, just nudged him a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, but this is where I'm going with this, is another restaurant came along, or a woman came along, Marty Richardson and her husband Dave, and bought it. And they've turned it into, I mean, it's somewhat similar. They hired the entire staff back.
That's great.
Including the executive chef, and gave him free reign. You come up with the menu, Terrence, and you do what you want, and we will serve it.
Wow.
And it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And so then I started thinking, all right, well, they're not alone. There are all these other restaurants that are popping up,
Yeah.
you know, from the ashes of COVID. And so now I've been doing these first looks of these brand new restaurants. They're not, it's kind of a critique, but it's not. I mean, I go, I tell the story, and I said, all right, here's their specialties, or here's what you got to try. Just a little something. Here's how it's made. Here's how much it costs. And then the location.
Yeah.
And that right now it's almost like the hidden gem thing. It's giving people somewhere new to try. I'm going to go home and write one tonight about a new place downtown. And it's fun, and it helps these businesses, and it helps. I mean, my God, it helps me find out really good places to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you find. Do you ever feel the pressure that knowing the article that you could put out about somebody is going to affect their business in that way?
Yes, of course I do. I now, because again, I'm not a critic. I'm only writing what I like, because I'm just a guy, just like you.
Right.
Just some guy who likes to go out and eat and drink. And I know that when I publish a story, people are going to read it and they're going to decide they're going to go there or not. And so I tell them, I warn them, I said, all right, the story's going to publish Wednesday morning, because I learned this through Sam's Chicken Land.
Yeah.
If I had known the response that story would have gotten, I would have warned him, because he didn't have staff. He didn't have, I mean, he ran out of food.
Was it the same when you were covering sports? Like if you covered a local high school team or whatever the case was, would they get a bunch of new people attending the game the next week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because I think if you're a big West Genesee basketball fan, or if you're a Central New York basketball fan, you're going to go to these games anyway.
Yeah.
Now, if there's something interesting about, the team, if there's a player who can do something spectacular, then maybe they're going to go for that. But no, I think what we do right now, what you and I do right now, resonates with people because, well, for one thing, this is something. So if I go to a restaurant that I'm writing about tonight, people are going to read it and think, oh, this is something I can do with my family.
Yeah.
Or so I'm going to share this experience with people and say, oh, hey, I read this. I read that, you can get this and that, and this is how they make it. It's all local, whatever, Or you share with your friends, and because there are all these people who have, because when you write a story on your podcast, people say, oh, we got to try that, and then they tag people's names, and all these people, it's a community, and this is all community driven.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go, they're going to tell their friends, and they're all going to go there. We're going to, this is our Thursday night dinner outing for the week. So I like being able to expose Central New York to places that they don't know about, and it's going to give them something to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like doing that, and like we do that in the comments, on our posts.
Yeah.
Just today we posted about Sam's Chicken Land, and somebody commented, just moved to the area looking for the best wings, where to go.
Right.
And I said either Shifties or Change of Pace.
Yeah. I would argue Swallows.
So here's where I screwed up with Swallows, and this is a terrible, terrible story. It's really not that bad, but it's just funny how dumb I am. Zach and I were doing best chicken wing video one night. And so Shifty's was still closed. So we did Change of Pace and Swallows.
Okay.
And we called each place. And because, Syracuse is still, in my opinion, far behind the times.
Of course.
And so when I call, we usually never call in advance and say, what we're doing. But for some reason that night we did. And I said, hey, we're doing a TV show. Because I knew that if I said, hey, we're doing a video on Eat Local's Instagram, they'd be like, what? Yeah. I said, whatever your best wing is, just give us that. So Swallows, it was their salt and pepper.
Of course.
I thought that he said lemon pepper.
Oh.
And so the entire time that we're filming this episode, Zach and I are saying, I don't taste any lemon in this thing. This wing sucks. How is there no lemon? Yeah. That's usually the most prominent thing in the lemon pepper wing.
No, they're salt and pepper wings. And that sauce that they serve it with Bobby Corning came up with that, I don't know, 40 years ago. And it's still just as good. Those are and listen, I love Change of Pace and I love Shifty's. I love Shifty's Frankenstein wings and I love Change of Pace, well, pretty much all of them. But Swallows, there's just something about them. They all get their wings from the same people, generally.
I didn't. So years ago, somebody told me Change of Pace got them from a local chicken farm. I cannot imagine that there's any sort of a local chicken farm that could produce that many wings.
No, they get it from a local. It's from a local business. But no, there's no chicken.
It's not a local
that can produce that many chicken wings. But
it'd be interesting if there was. But so I felt pretty dumb when 2 days later I was editing the episode and I text my buddy Nick, who runs Limp Lizard.
Oh, Nick Ford.
Yeah. And Nick's good friends with the people over, and so
I just saw him there not too long ago.
Oh yeah. So he was like, "What do you think of the salt and pepper wings?" I was like, "You mean lemon pepper?" He was like, "No, it's salt and pepper." I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, that's
that didn't
that's
feel
kind of a blunder.
Yeah, I texted my buddy Zach, who was the co-host with me. I was like, "Hey, we screwed up."
Yeah. What are you gonna do? I might stop there on my way home.
Yeah.
Before it. So
we've changed it up. We were just trying to do one episode, the top two, but then we were getting so many people after the fact to be like, "You missed this one, you missed that one, you missed that one."
You're always gonna get that.
Yeah. So we started doing multiple episodes, and we do the top 8 or the top 10 or whatever the case was, and then go through the list. But I don't know if we're gonna, it makes for views. It does do that. People do watch that stuff.
I watch it.
But the downside with it is, I think, you get so much, it exists on the internet nowadays, even more so than ever. But you get so much negativity.
Oh, the vitriol out there is. It's depressing.
Yeah.
And I get, I just have to shut it down.
Yeah.
I can't even watch it, even on our own Facebook page. But you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I used to, in the beginning, for the first couple of years, respond to every comment, good or bad, no matter what, just because I was trying to help boost our stats on Instagram.
Yep.
And to the point where some of my wife's friends would text her and be like, "Have you seen what Anthony's saying to these people online?"
Yeah.
But now I've just decided we're not going to respond to, unless it's a direct question or then we're just going to kind of leave it alone. And that is, unfortunately, I think just the way, I think it's gotten worse over the past year, but and worse, I think even more so, especially since things have opened up. People online just love to complain about everything.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
That's wild.
It's unfortunate, but I still, Anthony, respond to almost every comment.
Do you really?
I do. Because I posted on our Syracuse Eats page, then Syracuse.com will post it on their main page.
Yeah.
And when people, they'll ask questions, and they ask good questions. So I want to answer that.
Yeah.
And if someone says, "Oh, you got to try this," see, that's what I love about social media. And I love my job because people are telling me where to go.
Right.
And if someone suggests if they say, all right, Charlie Miller, you got to write about this restaurant, whatever. I'll say, okay, you want to join me? I will buy you lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
I bring people along with me all the time. For one thing, I can't eat everything.
Yeah.
I'd weigh 800 pounds.
Right.
So I bring readers along, and the only condition is I got to take the picture of the food before you eat it.
Yeah, right.
Because that's kind of what we do. But they think it's great. It's a conversation. So much of what I do now is I'm having a conversation with readers. Because, again, I don't know everywhere to go.
Right.
And I need people to tell me where to go.
Yeah.
And I do. And I listen. Oh, okay, I'll give that place a shot.
That's got to be a fun experience to go sit down with a complete stranger.
It is.
And have them, have this, person that you can sit there and learn about and talk to for an hour or however long you're there.
Yeah. And they think it's cool because, one, they get a free meal out of it because I'm paying for it or my company pays for it. And then they have something that they tell their friends, and they go on to the Facebook page or Instagram and say, oh yeah, I got to eat with Charlie Miller at the paper and have dinner there. So that's fun.
I've always been curious just about like people and their life experiences. And so I remember, I was probably 19 years old, 20 years old. I was young, but it was for nothing more than just my curiosity. But I had put on like a Craigslist post in Syracuse, like looking for people who have gone through divorce, just because I wanted to sit down and talk to them and like, and we wound up sitting down with like 3 or 4 of them at Cafe 407 for like 30, 40 minutes and just talking to them. And it was a great experience.
Interesting.
I never did anything with that other than just get to meet these people and learn about them. But I think that'd be kind of a cool feature to do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then write like a little story about the person that you're sitting across from.
Yeah, I will always give them a shout out if they want. If they want to remain anonymous, like sometimes I'll just put my first name in, and that's okay. Like if I was writing a real like news story, of course I wouldn't just use someone's first name because we have to use. But for something like this, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you if it's Eddie from Onondaga Hill, or if it's Ed Smith from Onondaga Hill.
Right.
It's some dude from Onondaga Hill.
Yeah, for sure.
Who turned us on to this restaurant.
Yeah.
But most of them like it, and we have a good time. They're just curious about the process, the reporting process, and how I do my job. And I think they're probably surprised at how laid back I am with this stuff. But I clearly take it seriously, but it's a lot of work. It's not just going out eating and drinking, because you still have the worst part after writing about if you're out eating and drinking a lot, you still have to go home and write the story. Yeah. And that's the hard part.
We're starting a blog just to feature some of the local breweries in town. And I just sat down with one of them, and I brought my field recorder with me, and we sat there, and what I thought was going to be a very quick 10-minute Q&A turned into like this 45-minute conversation. And now I am perplexed as to how to sit down and re-listen to that conversation and then write a 700-word blog from it. Yeah. So much so that I haven't touched it in like 2 weeks because I'm just like, I don't even want to think about having to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to write a little bit, and like probably around the first time that there was an author, Donald Miller, and then around the time that I picked up Charles Bukowski for the first time, I really started to like write really stupid, inappropriate fiction, and I used to really enjoy it. Sure. And I don't know what's changed, but that was 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now, I absolutely, if I have to like update a social media profile, I get very upset with I cannot fathom doing what you do and writing so many words every single week.
It's right. It comes easily to some people, but it's a process. I will write a story. Like when Kelly's did finally close down, okay? I gave him a week. John told me the other night, he said, I just got in my car and I drove away. And I think he went to Maine, he went to Vermont by himself. Then he came back and he said, all right, I'm ready to talk.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to write a story, just because it was part of the community. His restaurant had been there for 35 years. So, and it was also very personal to me because I went there. He sponsored my softball team for 25 years. I had my wedding, the rehearsal dinner there.
Yeah.
And I went there there was, let's see, I think I counted 106 consecutive Tuesday nights that I went there for his chicken wing special, because he had good wings too. They still do. 106, I think it was. And anyway, so I go and I interview him and his son, and I interview longtime patrons. And I go home, I give it a day, and I start writing the story, and it sucks.
What are you doing in that day? Are you thinking about it?
Yes, nonstop.
Yeah.
I'll exercise, I'll go work out, and I'm thinking about it the whole time. I will go eat, and I'm thinking about it. I'll just bounce a couple ideas off of people's heads. I'll bounce it off my boss's head. And then I would go home and I rewrite it. Still sucked. Write it again. It's getting a little bit better. I take myself out of the story. Because I think the first version I said, I had my rehearsal there. I said, no one gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
So the final, around midnight that night, the story was going to run the next morning. Actually, it was the day that the bars reopened. Was it June or July, whenever that was.
Yeah.
It was going to run that morning. Between midnight and 3:30 a.m., I pretty much overhauled it. Now, I was drinking a little bourbon, and I woke up and my boss, and it was all ready to go. I give it one more read, and then my boss calls me. He said, "Man, this is good." I said, "Yeah." I mean, it was like giving birth, and that was a little bit. It was more personal to me.
Yeah.
And just like the other day when the state lifted all the restrictions on bars and restaurants, I went to Steve's bar on Tipperary Hill because I had been there the day that everything shut down. I went there, Swallows and Limp Lizard and Nibsies, the day that they shut down. So the day that everything was lifted, I went back to Steve's. My boss said, you got to do something about it. I said, well, it's not really like that big of a deal because they'd been open for a while, all the bars and restaurants. He said, I know, but it's kind of like, the end of a war. Yeah, it's finally over. So I went and I just sat down and watched these same guys who were there a year ago. They have a couple drinks and again, I went through that same process, Anthony. I went home, I bounced the idea off my wife, how I was going to format the story, and I wrote it. I think it took me 3 times to write it. But again, I wrote the final version probably around 3 a.m. And I was very happy with the story, and my boss was as well. So everyone's different. Everyone has their own creative process, and our workflow. And mine is kind of messed up because I'm up in the middle of the night, working when I should be sleeping.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'm just toast, I'm not like, but when the story comes out, you feel good.
Yeah.
So,
has ever been obviously, the written word is still very important to people because, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people consume so much of not just what you write, but what
we all do.
Syracuse.com puts out,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And and even today where, I mean, 10-minute video is too long online.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
You know, you have to, I mean, we're going through it right now with trying to shift what we do. And so now we've got 60 seconds, right?
Yep.
Maybe 120 if we're lucky to really try and get something out. And I'm surprised people still listen to these hour-long podcasts that we do.
Well, that's different. Podcasts are different.
Yeah, I can see where I mean, well, I say yeah like that. I listen to Joe Rogan all the time.
Of course.
Amongst others.
He's the best.
But those are 3 hours.
Yeah, those are really long.
Right. And they take me a couple days, but
sure, but so I've listened to yours, I put it in my car during the commute to wherever I'm going. Or I'll fall asleep to it, or I'll have my morning coffee to it.
Yeah.
That's different. Sitting down to watching a video, because I do videos too for Syracuse.com. I produce my own, shoot them all myself. I have very similar gear that you have. But I know that I got to keep it under 3 minutes.
Right.
Generally 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I get, and it's tough, but I also know that I'm not going to sit down in front of my computer and watch a YouTube video that's going to last that long.
Yeah. Yeah. My habits are different. Like if it's a topic that catches me, I'll, but, I mean, last night my habits are usually before I go to bed, I will pull up my iPad and turn on YouTube and see what's there on my front page, or I'll have an interest and look something up. For some reason, last night I was watching 5 different 10-minute long videos on what they do with the trash in New York City.
See, I find that fascinating. And I do the same thing. You get that, it's a wormhole, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you get in that YouTube vortex and it's hard to get out. Because I could go home and watch something about bourbon or cigars or I like these videos where where a music producer will pull apart a song. Rick Beato is his name, and he has this what they call the stems. So you can hear every instrument, and he isolates it. And then before you know it, 6 hours are gone.
Have you watched the Paul McCartney, Rick Rubin one?
Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
Holy cow.
I'm 4 episodes in, and it is brilliant.
We're about halfway through the second one. The fact alone that they have what I can only imagine is the original reels that they're pulling up and down is...
Yeah, the stems.
That's unreal.
Yep.
And how there's... I mean, it's just... That's so
It's fantastic. It's so good.
That to me is... There's things like that, which, obviously the Beatles and McCartney, I was born in 86, so they're before my time, right? But I would give anything to be able to see like Paul McCartney play in concert, just for the fact of knowing that you've seen Paul McCartney. My wife and I are going back and forth a little bit right now, and if we want to spend as much money to go see Elton John,
sure.
Just for the sheer fact that it's Elton John. I feel that way. I saw Willie Nelson the last time he was at the amphitheater, and 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
And I was lucky to get great seats like the day of. But even though I only know maybe a third of his songs, the fact that I was sitting there watching Willie Nelson play was...
I did go to see Paul McCartney. Part was because I had really good seats, so I was excited about that. But I agree with you. And I saw Elton John at the Dome with Billy Joel, so I've seen it. So I'm probably going to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like photographing concerts a lot. I know I won't get to do that one, but I'm a musician. I've played music for all my life, and seeing concerts live is something I really enjoy. But seeing Paul McCartney and watching this with Rick Rubin, who's brilliant, watching them together, you just learn so much more about the music and how it got there.
Yeah.
And that's special.
Yeah. And one of our, we still make a lot of dumb mistakes every day, but one of my early day really dumb mistakes was the first year the amphitheater was built. I had no idea how press passes worked for concerts.
Right.
And so I just thought to myself, we've got, like, at the time, 4,000 Instagram followers. Maybe I can get a press pass to go see Keith Urban was playing. And so for some reason we did. And it was like a weird night. We had family in town. We were on vacation. And I was like, do I want to hang out with the family tonight, or I want to go in and go stand front row for the entire Keith Urban concert and get to take pictures, which is how I thought press passes worked.
Right.
So I showed up late to the concert.
Oh, if it was after the third song, you're not photographing it.
So, well, it was like the second song. I just walked up to security and then to the box office. I was like, I have press passes. Here's my email. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Everyone there was confused as to who I was or what the hell I was talking about. They said, whatever, just go in. And so, because the PR person and the photographers were already up at the sound booth taking pictures. So I'm just walking in. I walk in and they're walking past me. And I proceeded for like 30 minutes to just roam around.
Oh, nice.
From the lawn to the front, just taking pictures. I got home that night. I emailed the person. I said, hey, thank you so much for hooking us up. We got some great shots. And that went into about a 12 email thread reply of the head of security and how did Anthony get past us?
Oh, boy.
Like, what color shirt helped you? You can't post any of those pictures.
Right. Yeah, you can.
So I still have on a hard drive somewhere these really amazing pictures of the Keith Urban concert that I can't do anything with.
And trust me, Keith Urban has no idea that this happened.
Exactly.
And nor would he care. He would probably want your pictures out there. But no, I know. I've dealt with that. Even just at the state fair, because I love bringing my gear, and most of them you get the first three songs. ZZ Top was weird. You got 90 seconds.
Really?
And from the booth, not from the pit.
Oh, wow.
But then other bands, you can stay the whole show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, depending on the venue and depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But I love doing that. And sometimes when the artist makes eye contact with you, and he sees if you have good gear, they know, and he's going to follow you, and he's going to basically mug for the camera, or he or she, and that's a lot of fun. Yeah. I really enjoy it, and then you obviously get to although I did learn wear earplugs because all the subwoofers are below the stage and they're just pounding you.
Yeah, we had a blog for all of maybe 2 months, and Margaret McCormick edited them for us, and she did a great job. And I paid 2 of the writers and 3 of the other ones, so none of them were actually writers, but the other 3 did it on a volunteer basis. And so the thought was we would release 5 articles each month on our website, and we had things from my buddy doing like cooking blog and recipe to we covered like either concerts at the amphitheater, or we did a coverage of the former downtown food tour. And I did just kind of like whatever. I would just write about whatever. So it was around the time that the race for mayor was going on when this last election when Ben got elected, but it was before the primary, so everybody was involved.
Right.
So the first person I sat down with was Andrew Maxwell, and I think I'd mentioned this to you before, but we called it Dinner with the Candidates.
Oh yeah.
And so I had gone to dinner with Andrew, or I had coffee with Andrew. I went to dinner with Chris Fowler and Ben and Marty Masterpool, and the only blog that saw the light of day was the one about Chris Fowler. And I've said this before on the podcast. I love Margaret. I think she listens to the podcasts. but she screwed up by letting me publish this article because the stupid idea that I had was to phrase the whole blog that I was writing a letter to my parents who don't live in Syracuse any longer, letting them know that I met this person running for mayor and this is what I thought about him, and Dad, you'd like him so much, and da, da, da. It was the worst thing.
I don't know. I kind of like the concept. I mean, it's different, but
Charlie, it was terrible. It was trash. Maybe the concept with a talented writer, but this one was pure trash. And Margaret brought it through her editing process and sent it back and let me post it, and it was still one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done.
I love Margaret, by the way.
Yeah, Margaret's great.
Known her for forever.
Yeah. So with things that are changing in like the world with, shortened videos and stuff like that, how's that affected your process over the past couple of years?
Well, so being in the newspaper business for so long, we had, back when we were just before the internet, we had deadlines every day. You had to hit it like your story had to be done by noon or whatever hour. When I was a police reporter, I would come in at 6 a.m. First version had to be done by 8. Then I had 10, 12, and 1. Now it's like you're always on deadline. You're never on deadline. I mean, we're writing for an internet audience, and if it's not breaking news, you plan on when you're going to release it. So tonight I'm going to go home. I'm going to write a story, and it might go up tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess it's going to go up Wednesday morning. So that helps because you can always make changes.
Yeah.
So the process, I think, is easier, but you got to time things in a smart way so people will see it. You don't post anything in the middle of the night because no one's going to see it. So timing is key. Writing a good headline is key. That people can search for.
Yeah.
And it's appealing. So that's changed. Years ago, we writers never took their own pictures. We had photographers.
Yeah.
I mean, I happened to be a photographer before I was a writer. So I still have the professional gear, and so, but I do it all. I will take pictures. I will take my video, and I will write the stories. So that's changed a lot. You have to be skilled at so many different media. But I like that because I can control it.
Yeah.
I know how I want it to look.
Yeah.
And how I want it to sound. And so that's a good thing. And I mean, I think, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the business, but I think because I have a lot of freedom in what it is that I write about it and how I write it. I can have a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
With my writing, but I think that's also is kind of like a column. But when occasionally I have to do breaking news shifts and I have to be a real reporter again.
Yeah.
I can't do it then.
I'm sure it's all hands on deck coming up here for the election.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. We'll all probably have something to do with it, but yeah.
Yeah. Are there any projects that you've had that you've been waiting or wanting to put out, or kind of like a side project, something that you've been wanting to release?
Not really, but I find things to write about every day. I mean, I think, maybe I should do a series on this, and then like the next day I think, that was a dumb idea, and I scrap it. I'm always thinking of new things. I'm always looking for new stories to write about, but that's how we are. We always want to look ahead and at what's next. So, and I don't follow, my day is never the same.
Yeah.
I don't have a process where I get up at 6 and I read this, I read that, and then I start writing. I don't work that way. Never have, Even when I was the police reporter, I had to be at the office at 6 and I had deadlines, but I was also, that was a lot different. But now I set my own pace.
Yeah.
And the last year was a lot different because most of us were working from home. I would go to restaurants and bars when they were open, and I would go back to my home and write. And while our office has reopened, a lot of people are still working remotely. And I didn't go to the office today. I worked all day, but I didn't go into the office.
Yeah.
I created a nice home office with a stand-up desk and a little bar.
Nice.
some good bourbons and
a
humidor.
The few times that I do write, I found that usually the things that come out best are after maybe 3 or 4. I'll call them. I'm going to coin the phrase right now, an Italian Mai Tai, and I only coin it that way because up until yesterday I didn't know how to make a Mai Tai. I just knew that I like to drink them.
Yep.
So the Italian Mai Tai is just pineapple juice and rum.
Actually, sounds pretty good.
So usually after like 2 or 3 or 4 of those at, around midnight when you're just tired enough. That's usually when I'll put something out. So maybe that's what I have to do with that blog on the brewery.
You know what? You might be surprised. You might be pleasantly surprised at how your story turns out.
Yeah. So, Syracuse has never had, well, I shouldn't say never. Syracuse doesn't have like what maybe we would consider a food critic, right?
Right. We have a couple,
Yeah.
but they're part-timers. They're freelancers for us.
Yeah.
And that's worked that way for, my God, forever.
Jared does some, right?
Jared does some, and then Jane Woodman is the other one. And they both work with me. Okay. They send me their stories every week, and I read them, and I put it all together. Yeah. Well, Jared, I mean, they both, again, they take their own pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are the food critics.
Yeah. Jared had the one review of Mad Burger, and the next day, the day that he released it, they announced that they were closing permanently after a couple weeks. We were the ones doing the social media for them, so that was
that's right. You and I think we chatted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think you sent me because I had gone to their Facebook page and sent them a message because someone had said, "Hey, I'm trying to order food from this place and they're not answering the phone." So I just sent a message. I think he responded.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was a great concept. I mean, she sold out, just about every single day. It was just a staffing issue,
Yep.
Which hopefully restaurants will be done with in the next month or two.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah. We were just having a conversation about that with one of our clients who still understaffed. They have a lot of staff, but they're still understaffed. But they're trying to think of what's going to happen come September. So,
yep.
Yeah. So the last kind of, I don't want to say real food critic, but the last food critic that put like a lot of time into it was her name Yolanda?
Yeah, Yolanda, right.
So she did a lot, and I think this is probably a great testament to any sort of a food critic is that people gave her a lot of shit for it.
They did.
And that's probably like, how do you know if you're a good food critic? Do people hate you?
Right. I mean, they were afraid of her.
Yeah. Why do you think Syracuse, doesn't have a larger role like that?
I don't know. But I also think, Anthony, that the times have changed a lot, and when I read a food review, I want it to be honest.
Yeah.
I expect that critic to tell me what's good and what's bad. If the service stunk, I want to know it. Mm-hmm. But if it's a negative review, you got to go back at least once. Give them a second chance. I firmly believe that. Yeah. Or you go 3 times total. And if it's still bad, then you light it up. But chances are it's not. Chances are that maybe because everyone has a bad day.
Yeah.
I could write a crappy story one day, and then the next day I'll write a better one, or I'll rewrite the crappy one. I think Jared and Jane, they know food. They know food. They know food better than I do, and I expect them to be honest in their reviews. And so does Central New York. Our readers do. Yolanda. That was pre-internet. And she could be, if there was something she did not like, she let you have it. And it could be harsh. I know. And I don't know why. I mean, now I think I would also argue that restaurants have gotten better. I think people's tastes have evolved. I think technology has changed the way people eat because, regulations, temperatures and how things are cooked.
Yeah.
So it might be better. I don't know. I know that I guess pizza's probably the same, but I think cheeses are better. I think meats are better.
Yeah. Yeah, I do to a certain extent. There's parts of me that love getting to know like the depths of the restaurant industry. My 9-to-5 job is a restaurant supply company, and we have this great test kitchen and this beautiful wood-fired oven. And at the time, we had Anthony D'Onofrio was working there. Now he's the chef out at the Yards. And so it was great to have him, especially during the pandemic when nobody was really selling anything, to say, let's go film a cooking show. And so we had this idea in the beginning of the pandemic to get multiple chefs, and we were going to make a pizza from scratch. And so we were going to make the dough from scratch, make the cheese, make the sauce, make the sausage, and then cook the pizza. And so we had Rich Strube come in to do the cheese from Eden. We had Kyle from Kasai come in to do the dough. We were supposed to have another chef come in to do the sauce. He backed out at the last second. So we wound up having Alex from Amano come in, who was just going to do the sausage. He wound up coming in and doing the sauce, doing the sausage, and then making the whole dough. So he came in to do the sausage, and we said, well, can you do the sauce? And he was like, yeah, but I need to go back to the restaurant and get some stuff. He said, why don't you go, and I had to go to my house and get a blade for the meat grinder. So he said, why don't you go pick that up and then come and meet me down at the restaurant and you can help me get the stuff. And so Anthony D'Onofrio wound up going down there at like 2:00 on a Wednesday. And we wound up sitting in the bar at Amano and drinking beers for like an hour and a half. And just the three of us talking and bullshitting. Yeah. And Alex showed us like their downstairs facility where they do the pasta and everything. And it was just a really cool experience that you really couldn't have outside of the pandemic.
Right.
To just sit there.
No, you couldn't.
And they had to get rid of their beer. So it was and then we got to be able to put this great video together, which I don't think we ever really released.
I love the concept.
Right. So there's things like that I love learning about, like the depths of the restaurant industry. And then there's the negative things, the things where you see behind the curtain. It's like, oh, I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, it's eye-opening when you're going into some of these kitchens. And I've been in Amano's kitchen. That's one of my favorite restaurants.
Yes.
I think what they have done is nothing short of amazing. The food every time is consistently good.
Yeah.
I mean, it is top-notch, and it is amazing. But I go to a lot of kitchens, and some of these kitchens I think, oh boy, I probably shouldn't see that. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few where I'll be standing in, and sometimes we'll go to take pictures, and it's funny right now. We've expanded the state, so we've just done a terrible job of getting content outside of Syracuse. Mm-hmm. So this weekend I'm going down to New York, and we've started messaging restaurants down there, and saying, hey, we're going to come in and do this. So we want to cover you and do a little, post about you. It's amazing. Some restaurants still are like, no, we're okay. Thank you. But some restaurants will say, Yep, come in and here's 10 dishes we're going to make just for you. Photograph them here, take them home.
Right.
And then other restaurants say, can you just come hang out in the kitchen? And as the food comes out, you can just take a picture.
Right.
So I've done that from time to time. And on more than one occasion, I've texted my wife and said, hey, we're not going to be able to eat at this restaurant anymore.
Yeah.
And she'll say, why not? And I'll say, well,
you don't want to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she works for the Department of Health, so
nice.
She gets it. But I still can't tell her all the details about it.
Yeah. No, it is eye-opening. But you realize how chaotic a kitchen can be at a busy restaurant.
Yeah. So do you have a hope for the restaurant scene in Syracuse coming out of, I mean, we're kind of out of it, but coming out of kind of the overflow of it?
I am overly hopeful, and I'm very optimistic because the scene wasn't decimated like a lot of people had predicted. Now they have to keep going, and like staffing is an issue. Certain the supply chain has been disrupted. Hopefully that improves.
Yeah.
Like with chicken wings, I think that's starting to get a little bit better, but like lobster, forget it.
Oh yeah.
And just different items. I hope more new restaurants sprout up. I hope that more restaurants take chances and bring us some new food and not just the same old stuff that was here before.
Yeah.
I like watching people take chances because I learn. I like to go to a restaurant and learn something new.
Yeah.
And try really good food. And I think I see that happening. I mean, I'm writing about the one I'm writing about tomorrow, or tonight, or for tomorrow or the next day, is that they just opened up at Board and Bar Charcuterie. Oh, yeah. It's outstanding. And what a great concept. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I know they had the building, the place before in Defee.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool concept. And it's after coming out of a year where we weren't allowed to be around each other, sitting down and picking at a charcuterie board, which is not just cheese and crackers. Right. There's meats, there's vegetables. I mean, there's cooked stuff, not cooked stuff, and all this fresh bread that they make. And you're picking at it and you're talking about it. And I realized midway through our dinner, and I was with two coworkers, we didn't pick up our phones once, except for when I had to take pictures of this stuff. And we had great cocktails, and it was reasonably priced. But something like that, I would have never thought you could build a restaurant around a charcuterie board, and they're doing it. And I'm telling you, people are going to hear about this, and they're going to go just because it's so vastly different. And I mean, it could be a trend. I don't know if it's a trend. I got to do some research. I don't think it's a trend anywhere, but I like it.
Yeah. It's surprising. I mean, it is interesting to see to see them go to that concept.
Yeah.
And, especially being what Defee was to then go into this.
Right.
And it is really interesting to see, I mean, if you're trying to think of what's going to be new and unique in Syracuse, and of all things, charcuterie board restaurant.
Big time.
That's it, right? There's it's not like there's an entree if you ask for it.
No, but the charcuterie board, there was three of us and they have three. They have a meat, they have a veggie or vegan, and they have a seafood. And then they have dessert. And then they do brunch on the weekends. But you get it for 1 to 2 people, 2 to 4 people, 4 to 6 people. And it's $20 or $40 or $60. It's a lot of food.
Really?
So, I mean, you're picking at it.
Yeah.
It's almost like eating with chopsticks. You're going to take less volume when you go in, but over time, you're going to realize, oh, shit, I'm getting full.
Yeah.
But the flavors, just all kinds of different flavors. It was really fun. That was the other thing. It was just fun. But yeah, I never thought you could make an appetizer and an entree, and it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that. appetizer becoming an entree.
Yeah.
Because I could probably use that
You probably
somehow.
can. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for coming down.
Anthony, it's always a pleasure. I mean, hell, I'll talk to you anytime.
Yeah.
And
we do have a concept. We'll probably wait to do it in the fall. We definitely will wait to do it in the fall, if not early winter. And that is, we recorded one test episode with Nick and Paul Valenti and Mary Tassone, and that was the four of us playing poker.
oh, geez.
And we recorded it right here. Poker tables behind the green screen, actually. And it was the four of us. We had a bunch of drinks, and we're just sitting here playing cards. The downside to that, we filmed the one test episode. I wound up releasing it like a month or two later, just on YouTube. The downside to it was I'm good friends with Nick and Paul, and I'm friends with Mary because she's been a client of ours for years. So the downside was the four of us were really just talking shit about everybody.
Yeah.
So the parts that I had to cut out.
I was going to say, you got less a lot of editing.
On video, you would see like the flop of one hand, but then I would have to edit the rest of it out. So you'd see the river and the turn of the other hand. So eventually what we want to do is like a 8-part series, 3 different restaurant owners each time, and me playing poker, talking, whatever. And the one idea I had was to have you be the dealer for each episode. You go.
I just have to learn how to play Texas Hold'em.
Yeah,
but
it's easy enough, and I think it would be a blast.
That would be a lot of fun because I love all those guys.
Yeah. So, well, Charlie, thank you so much.
Anthony, anytime.